Hello everyone and welcome, my name is Vincent and this is the animation tutorial for February. In this month I will again talk about a bit more of my workflow. We will go through many different topics with the goal to create something at the end which is called ANI, which we will talk about in the design tier. But in this part there's a lot of stuff we will talk about, and I think it's also quite interesting. There are some new things and some old things, something to repeat and something to learn again. And overall, I also want to say thank you for all your survey participations, and I will slowly try to implement that and improve the tutorials. And also I have asked lots of people for the bonus tutorials, so that will slowly come out in the 2021, and I'm working on some few bonuses and giveaways, and yeah, be surprised. But this month was really hard. I had a lot of hardware issues. My main PC is kind of broken. It crashes into BIOS, so this one is off. I'm working now at the old one, which is also buggy and slow. And I bought a new one last year, but no parts are delivered yet. So, and it says it will take 3 months. Too hard to get any hardware stuff. So right now I only have the PC case, which is this little guy here. So I'm kind of building a mobile PC where I can work at different places, but I will of course make some videos and tutorials about that as well, because that could be interesting for some of you. But yeah, let's get started. So I am now in Cinema and I have already this file open, and you can see I saved all the different steps in the original file, so you can have a look at it and play with the files itself. But let's directly get started. So I was starting with 2 cylinders. I had something like that, and I'm duplicating the other one, just turning it around by 90 degrees, and I'm scaling it a bit down to get it in place. Then I didn't want to have an overlap at the bottom, so something like that, but this guy could be a bit bigger. That's already something which looks nice. So then we will use the volume builder and the volume measure, and if we'll use them, we'll always need more substeps, so we'll get a smooth like interpretation. So therefore I'll select these 2, put them in the volume builder and the builder into the measure, and in this case I need a voxel size of 0.4. I already tested that. Then what we'll need next, we will need to cut off the top part of that. So I have a cube which you can use for a subtraction, and let's just place it at the right position, so here, and I'll put that into the volume builder, and into the volume builder we'll go for subtract. That is the object which I want. Just one thing, I will add a cap at the bottom object, so something round will happen at the bottom, and I think also the object can be a little bit higher, so that looks good. Perfect. Then what we'll need a little bit of smoothing, so I will add a smoothing in the volume builder. In the smoothing I will choose the mean curvature, so we have only a little bit of smoothing. Nice. So that's the first step, and that's also the file in the original one, so I don't need to make a copy. Therefore I'll just directly press C to convert this guy. I will call this flippy guy. So you can see we don't have UVs, which will be very important. But before that, we will have to look about our topology. And this is a step which really comes very often in my tutorials. And I, of course, did recommend you this quad remeasure plugin, like already quite much. And I have the values from before. I used 2500, and we can also activate detect hard edges by angle and remeasure it. So the edge will be a bit nicer, hopefully, if we put that on. And it will take a little while to remeasure everything, because that's quite some segments what we are having there. Well, already done. So this looks really cool. Then what I will want to show you, because the cool thing about Cinema R23, they also get a remeasure in there. Therefore I'm pressing just Shift C and go for remeasure, and the remeasure is the instant measure. You can see at the bottom it's calculating. It's really nice that it's for free. It's really cool that you can change values like you want, add whatever you want, and on the fly it will automatically work that. So you also can add some smoothing, which is nice. But there is a big difference between these two, and you can see the mesh from the quad remesher is definitely way better. We have some nice loops here around the edge where we want to cut later on, and there are no poles in there, so here are lots of these weird things which are not too nice. And the loop for this guy is quite alright, but this side is a bit broken. Yeah, but anyway, if you don't want to buy the quad remesher, the instant mesher is definitely doing a good job. So we would have to press C to also convert this guy, and then we can make a UV unwrapping. But I'm not gonna unwrap this guy, so I'll delete that guy, and I will only work with my retopologized guy here. So let's put that over to Ryzen. I have this bridge installed, which is really nice. You can directly send your files from C4D over to Ryzen UV, and you can do the unwrapping also in Cinema 4D, especially with the new update. It's doing quite well, but I'm used and familiar to this program. So what I want to show you, there's the way to auto unwrap everything. They have some nice presets over there. I don't want to create segments because we will have an animated texture over everything and it should flow around. And also if you have soft body animations, it's nice to keep like one segment. So the perfect thing for that would be this guy. Let's see what he will try to give me. And I think this is already a really good selection for my automatic cut. So I will go these two things and created a cut at the bottom. That's stupid. That would be really stupid for us. Let's see again. Cut, U for unwrap, optimize, pack, F to frame, and yeah. So that is definitely a good start, but I think we have a little bit too much of deformation, so we should try to work that out. For example, we can make a cut here to get a more even look from these types of polygons, and therefore I'll just select this segment here, and I'm pressing Shift and Control to preview my cut. Well, first of all, I want to make a cut in there, so I'm pressing C for cut, U for unwrapped, O for optimized, P for pack. You can see this area got a bit better, but this area is not too good, and the red part is also very distorted yet. But also note or keep in mind that with each cut we will see a seam and the texture won't flow so nice over the cut. So you have to try to find a balance between deformation and cuts. But to go into the red area would be nice. Perhaps you should have thought about what side of the object will be more seen, and I think this side is going to be the one which will be seen more. So therefore, let me see the result, what we get if we continue to create the cut up until here. So you can see half the scene is cut there, and I'm unwrapping and optimizing and packing, and now we have way less distortion, and you can see it looks very good here. And the cool thing about Ryzen and the bridge, I'm just pressing Ctrl S like save, and we get the updated version here with the new UV tag. And let's copy that guy, and I'm putting on a UV material which I already created. And by the way, just a quick note, if you don't see that, you have to go into your options and go to the materials and activate that so you can see the materials. Let's say you have an object without any UV maps and you want to do that into Cinema. So therefore, first of all, you have to select the object and press Shift C to get into your command line, and you have to type in UV projection, set UV from projection. Then we have a UV, and then we can go into the UV edit. You could do the same cuts in here and use like that, but just to quickly give you an overview, you can make the automatic packing and automatic unwrapping and packing, and we can relax the UVs a little bit. That gives us a very fast result and quite nice. So let's compare these two. You can see we have a fold over the edge, so our material can perfectly flow over there, and here in the automatic UV we have a cut from top to bottom, so there you will see the transition. But back part, for example, here looks also quite nice, although we have a bit of a distortion here. I think it's a bit cleaner on the Ryzen one. Yeah, we have a good UV flow here and here not. But yeah, you've seen how to set the cuts. You can do the same as here. And overall, if you especially don't animate a texture or need like perfect or good seams, this is definitely good enough. And also, if you want to be a unwrap master, you probably have to watch tutorials from other guys as well, because I'm also not the best. Before we continue to build or to make this object itself a bit more complex, I want to directly see what I'm doing there. As I'm saying, an important thing about this tutorial, this lesson, is how to apply animated texture. So therefore, I will switch into another scene, which I already prepared for this tutorial as well. So this is my scene, and we'll need to go back to my startup scene, and you can see what's happening here. Not really much, but a little bit, and we'll use that as an animated texture to blend materials or to put the bump or roughness or whatever you want, and I think that's quite nice. So I'll quickly show you how to do that, because probably you anyway know that how that works. So group everything again and call original and hide that. I have a camera in here which is a parallel camera, so I don't have any deformation. And let's start with a disk, and I need more segments. Then I will add a cloner. Let's give us a few more objects, and my objects should be smaller, perhaps something like that, more distant. So let's say 46 by 46, 45.5 in my scenario here, so everything is now filled perfect. And about the scene, I will render everything in a 2K material, so 2048. And I'm using Redshift to render this because I want to add motion blur. So see, my motion blur is activated. Otherwise, you can render this with any render engine, and it really renders very fast. But I thought it looks quite nice to add a little bit of motion blur in these objects. So then what did we do? We can use a plane effector or a random effector, and they are doing kind of the same these days because of the fall-offs. But we'll go with the plane effector, which is probably the nicer way to go. So let's see how much I want to move it to the side. Let's say 100 centimeters. Nice. Then in the plane effector, we need to add a fall-off. And in the fall-off, I will add a random field, and I want the random field to be animated. So that's the first step. The animation speed can be a bit faster. Let's go by 40. Then I want to increase the contrast of the noise itself. And therefore we'll go into the clamp and we will add ourselves a curve. So go to the curve and let's see. Okay, yeah, we have to move everything to the right, and also I want to increase the contrast. So not too many objects are moving. Still for my taste, and there are too many objects moving, still too many. And then we can play around with the values from the noise itself. For example, if we increase the speed, that's nice. And then we can play around with the scale. For example, what happens if we have a very small scale. And of course you can play around with the noises and see what different noises will give you as a result. So Looker might be something really cool if we also add a delay effector. Yeah, I think that's nice because I like the jitter effect, but then perhaps we will need to reduce the strength of the effect. So 50, and let's also increase the delay a little bit. Nice, so this looks cool. And then what I did, I just stacked several effectors onto my cloner. For example, you can add another plane effector, or you can go the old school kind of random effector way. So in the random effector, I only want to affect the X position as well. And I want it to be animated. So instead of random, we will go into noise. And my animation speed can be 50 and my scale can be small. So that's nice. Or let's say everything should move slower, but again, I don't want the whole motion. I only want a little bit of motion. So I'll just again give myself another random field as a fall-off. And again, another curve, increase everything. So there's only very little bit of motion, and you can see some of them are moving. And now we can perhaps increase the speed and the scale a little bit. Also the position of the deformation. That's nice. Let's go give it a bit more and a bit more speed. And you can see, for example, if I put off the plane effector, that's nice, but again, a little bit too much of motion, so a tiny little bit. I will need to go into the random effector and, into the random field, into the fall off. And if I increase my curve, we get more contrast, or we are clipping more of the noise and we get less motion. So only a few objects are moving, and that's what I like. I like the other ones to stand still. And also I think a little bit more space between the objects could be nice, so therefore I'll just scale them down a little bit. And now I'm adding back on my plane effector, and so now we have a little bit of motion, but not too much. We don't want to drag the whole attention to the texture itself. I mean, in the scene there's still a lot of going on. And also what is nice, because these objects are moving quite fastly, there will be a lot of motion blurs. For example, let me look here. Look at this guy. And first of all, I will save and I'll press render. And there's not too much of motion blur. Obviously there's no motion blur because Redshift can't show it like that. But let's save everything and render everything. Just a few settings about my Redshift. I don't know which render you're using here, but very quickly I have my automatic sampling on and I have no GI. I have 0.8 in the adaptive threshold error, which will be very fast, and the motion blur is on. Nice. So then let's output all frames, 2K, save, and you can obviously have that material as well. So I will save that for you into the animation folder and call that texture 01. Cool. And then we will need to render, and let's see how long that takes. I'll fit the screen and you can see it takes 2 seconds per frame, and I'm rendering 100 frames, so it takes a little bit, but yeah, it's really fast. So I'll get a drink for that. And just one thing, because I've seen it now here, you can see now the motion blur is rendered, and I think this gives a little nice detail in the as a texture material. So that's how it looks. Looks nice. So see you in a minute. Now I quickly want to give myself a second texture to be able to put that on the second part of my final design. So I am in the same scene and I copied everything and I replaced this sphere with a rectangle. So I'm having this type of rectangle, which is rounded. So you can see that's just the object, and I put it into the cloner. And let's press play. So overall, the setup is mostly the same. I tried to play around with some push-apart effects, but didn't use that at the end. I'll show you later. But for the plane effector, I just switched from my random noise into the cell field, and I get a total different approach or style. And I think this looks really nice. Also, what I did in the parameter, I changed the Z position in 2.26, and also I played around a little bit with the scaling, so they can scale up and down, which you can see. Then this was already everything I made and I render it, but just a quick thing, you can also apply the push apart effector at the end of everything, and then something like that happens. Well, I have to first of all increase the effect a bit stronger, let's say like 20, and now they try to avoid intersecting, and I think this looks also very interesting. But for now, I didn't use it because I wanted to have a more of a clean texture, like not too much noise, just to have it clean. So nice. I then deactivated it and I have the cleaner version. Perfect. And quickly I rendered it as a 2K material again, and it's also in your project folder, so you can use that material. Then I will switch the scenes and I'm going back into my stage, and I continued working a little bit on that, so you can see what we are gonna do in a minute. So I'm just quickly playing that and there are some updates. So first of all, you can see the texture is already animated in the preview, and we have 2 objects and they are moving like interestingly. So how to do that? Then first of all, let's my final guy hide that, or actually no, sorry, don't have to hide it, just put it in the original folder. And our last stand was just this object here. Then we will create a material, and obviously you will use or create your material in the final render engine, which you're using like Octane or Redshift or whatever. But for now I want to apply like a standard material. So I'm creating a new default material, and that is also kind of nice to see everything already in your hardware viewer, and you can also make a hardware preview and see how the texture will animate and how it will look. But you have to know a few things to be able to make textures animated. So therefore I'll create a normal material, and you go into the color, and then you have to go into the texture, and you will need to load an image. And in your folder I created the two animations there just in one folder. I'm selecting the first one, and now we have a still. So then we have to go into the material and click into the animation part, and then we have to calculate. So now he detected my 100 frames, which I rendered, and I don't want it to be stopped. I want to loop everything, or we can ping pong everything. So it goes one way and goes back. So 200 frames is actually the exact same what we have here, but it will continue ping ponging forever. So that is nice. But now if you click play, well, actually it is already playing, but in your default setting, you would have to go and click animate preview, and it's not on here. Because I did that in the previous material, that's why he's already previewing me animations. Otherwise, you will only see a still. So you have to go into the viewport and activate animate preview. And then what you can also do, the material looks a bit jaggy and like blurry, and I like to increase the resolution of the material. So instead of 256, I'll go to 512, and that's still quite fast and responsive. And now everything looks a bit better. That is what you will need to do to activate animation, and later on for your render engines you'll just need to do the same and calculate the images. But then let's see. The cool things about my unwrapping is that the animation can go over the edge here now, which looks really nice, and we don't have many seams. So that is really great. Let me remember, where did I cut? Here is a cut, so you can see the seam there. There's not perfect, but obviously you have to have some cuts, otherwise you can't unwrap. And here is a cut of the seam, you can see. Well, that is quite nice, but then also the material is a bit too big for me. In the preview I will shrink everything down by 50%. So you can see overall the effect is really nice, because most of the points are staying still and only some of them are moving hectically. And I want to like emphasize this motion in my animation for the object itself. So then let's continue. What you will need to do next is, you can see my anchor point is not in the middle, and this is a little bit of a tedious or like hand worked workflow, because I don't know how to exactly put the anchor point into the right position. But let's continue. I'm creating myself a cylinder, and I'm switching into my top view. So now I'll try to center the cylinder into the center of my like attached cylinder in the flippy part. And I'll just give myself more segments in the cylinder to better see what I'm doing there. And then pressing T to scale everything up. And now I'll try to center, and I was already really good centering the cylinder in the center of my attachment. I would say this is about right. I mean, you don't have to go 100%, but you have to be quite close. Otherwise, the spinning and rotation of these two objects won't work. So now you can see the real center is at this point. So then I'm going into my flippy objects, and I'm switching here that I can move my anchor point. And well, let's go back in the flippy guy. We have to remember at this line, at this point, so it was exactly here. I can move it now, and let's quickly compare, and they are at the same position now. So this is a bit of annoying, and I don't know how to do that better, but it works for now. So cool. Now we can delete the cylinder, and we have our first object with a right anchor point, and therefore let's copy this guy and let's spin it around by 180 degrees and move it down a little bit. I left a little bit space in my design here because I wanted to add another cylinder into the center, because it could be something like a mechanical thing where everything spins around this, I don't know, thingy. It could be metal, but yeah, in general, I think it's nice to add some detail to that. So perhaps the height can be 1 centimeter, and let's see where we are with our cylinder. So also I'm just increasing the rotation segments here. And I would just add some caps, just a little bit, to give it a bit more detail and to have the ability for some light reflection over there. So I think this looks quite nice, and let's have a really close look. It's also fine if you have a little bit of a gap, that gives some nice play. And I want it to be a little bit small, so it's a bit in the inside. Nice. What I want to do next is I want to copy the material, and I already created another material, so I'm just drag and dropping that over there. And this is the second material which we rendered. And let's go and press play, and you can see now at the bottom flippy object we have one animated texture, and the other one we have the first one. And in the design part, I don't know yet how to use them. We can use them like very subtle, like for example only in the roughness map, or a little bit in the bump, or we can blend two materials together, or we'll use it in diffuse. I don't know yet what we will use and what will look good, but that is definitely a really good start and gives you an idea about the concept about animated textures. So nice. Then what I did next, I thought it would be nice to have like a bullseye into the top of the sky to add some more details. Let's duplicate the cylinder. I'll call it middle, and now I'll need to create a top one. So let's scale that round about where we want to have it, and we need more height but less radius. And I want to cut off the part for this one, and now I will use it like old school cheap way, just with the bool objects. I'm selecting these two guys, and it was the wrong direction, like that. And perhaps the radius can be a bit smaller. Yeah, something like that is nice. Then I want to create a single object in the bool object, and I need to copy my top part, because that's the stuff which is cut out, and the height shouldn't be that high. I think it's nice, a little bit more up, and obviously it has to be a little bit smaller. Let's go 0.9, and we have a cap. I think that's already quite nice, so let's check that. Cool. And yeah, perhaps a few more segments in here. Then that's the part, and this part now doesn't have the perfect geometry, and it's not UV unwrap, but we won't see that, so therefore I won't bother. So it saves us some time. So then let's group everything together. So the top part should be moving, and that's the top part. That's called top part, and we need the bottom part, and it's important to put that into nulls because you will see in a second. And the middle part is not gonna move, so we don't need any animation in there. So I want to move these two objects with a vibrate tag, and well, first of all also select all of them and call this like the final flippy guy. So, and what I like to do with the vibrate tag is to always use the nulls, because you can PSR reset them, because sometimes I had like weird jumps with the vibrate tag, so yeah, it's better to put it on a null than onto this guy. So go for vibrate tag, and we'll start with the top one. So what is the tag doing? We have to select that and activate the rotation. That is a good start. And what I thought is like, well, in general, it's really nice to combine these types of vibrate tags, because like now it's very uniform how it moves. And I did it by just copying the tag itself, but that kind of breaks everything. And also we can see that our the center axis is not at the right place. And for example, you can see now the object is offsetted. That's what I meant with the vibrate tag. Let's see if we convert the bool, and get rid of the null. So nice. Now we have again our own old axis center, and we can put the top part as a child of the flippy one. And now I think everything is aligned. No, the null is still offset it, but let's perhaps do the same again and put it into null again and call top. And then we will activate the vibrate tag, activate the rotation, and let's see. So I think now it works, and let's copy that. Let's just continue with our top one. So what I wanted to achieve is to add different styles together. So first of all, the first one should move quickly and have a small amplitude. The second one should move like slower and has a bigger amplitude. And the third one should move really slow and should have like a bigger amplitude. So we are kind of combining three different kind of noises, of high frequency, mid frequency, and low frequency. And I think this is already quite nice, but I think the biggest rotation can be a bit slower. So we have the smooth, longer rotation elements and the more snappy, more jumpy ones in the smaller frequency. But you can play around with the values like till you find something what you like. And one thing they should all have different seeds. So it feels like this guy's only spinning around. Yeah, perhaps if you add three together, perhaps it doesn't work like adding them together. So I will decrease all values. This is nice. So it's really spinning very weird and interesting. So yeah, just play around with the values till you find something what you like. And I'm just now copying all of them because you know how it works, and I'm just changing the seed. And we have now just different seeds. And I think the animation is really interesting and nice. And as the last thing what I did, I copied again all my noises onto the whole null itself. And in that null, I don't only want to animate one rotation, I want to rotate all of them. And let's get step by step. So my high frequency one should get only very little of rotation. The second one, let's say a little bit more. And the third one, also a little bit more. Perhaps we'll reduce the amount of spinning and flipping and turning. I think these values work really well. And we can also change the seeds again, so we get something different there. That is the next step on our journey to the animated texture. Let's take a quick break. Nice, so I continued working on the piece, and I now know what else we will need to make this rendering. So let's have a look. This is the scene which I continue to work on. So first of all, this is not the redshift part yet, so I'll quickly delete the materials so you won't have them there. And also all the redshift attributes, I will kill them. We'll talk about later in the design tier about that. So let's have a quick look onto our scene, what happened. The key, or let's first of all start to remove a few things so I can go through everything step by step, and we'll keep the floor for now. So let's get rid of all the walls here. Let's see what we got there. First of all, I created this element. It's a cloner in a cube, and in a cloner you can go to radial, and it has a radius from 130 to 132, but whatever fits for you. The thing is, I want to add a reflection to show you later on the ray switch. If I'm now into my camera and we will have the reflection from these cubes, I will have to build something around where it can reflect. Otherwise, everything will just reflect from the HDR, which we'll put in later. So also again, I'm deleting the redshift stuff here, so you can put in whatever you want. So therefore, we will need to work on our reflection. And therefore, I know that we need to build a place around this, and it doesn't have to be really realistic or very good, because I also want to increase depth of field later on, so the reflection won't be that sharp. But yeah, so we got the cloner, which you will have to rebuild, and I'm sure you can do that. Then into my stage, I got this wall object also, which are just two cubes, and a cloner with just a few of these benches, things in the middle, so we have a little bit of a nicer reflection. And then we need to cover everything up. So I made an instance of the wall, and I'm placing one here, one there, Well, actually this one I didn't use in the end because there was too much detail in my reflection and I wanted to have it a bit more clear. So this is my grid, like super cheesy and simple, and then the back also. So that's my fake room. And for me the reflection did work very well, but you can see because we will directly watch into this reflection, everything in the back will be seen. So the blank void will be there. And some HDRs work very well, but it's easier to just place another object. And you can see I first of all have to show you my camera. My camera is at the edge of the thing. So if you are shooting with a more long lens camera, I have 160 here now. Usually I'm something about 200, so I reduced the focal length a little bit so I could get in closer with the camera. But if you want to continue using your long lens camera, just slide this guy to the back and increase the floors, so everything also works for that. But for me, this setup was really nice. I think that's the way to go, and I will directly save you the file and you can continue working with this guy. Actually, I'm not sure if Redshift Octane has shader switches and ray switches, so hopefully you will continue in the design part with Redshift. Nice. So see you in a minute over there.